Well, good morning, everybody. It is a beautiful day for another episode of Pickup Lines presented by Gomez Law Firm, Integrity Roofing and Siding, and the Savinol Group. We are live inside the all-electric Lexus RZ 450e, courtesy of North Park Lexus of San Antonio and North Park Lexus at Dominion. And I love all my guests, but this one has a special place in my heart today for reasons that I think you will understand here in just a little bit. This is Leo Vasquez, who has several titles. And believe it or not, we share a personal connection, if you will, as indicated by the letter jacket you see right behind me here. And so, to set a little context, which we'll get to the story in just a minute, this letter jacket behind me in the back seat is my father's letter jacket. And so it's 50 plus years old, but we'll talk about that in just a little bit. I want to get to Leo's story here, and then we'll explain why he's here and the whole connection and everything. But it's great to see you, first of all.
Thank you so much.
And to have this conversation.
Glad to be here.
We're outside your office, and I had read, kind of in the leading up to the show, that you put in decades of time at USAA.
I did 35 plus years, yeah.
And you retired not too long ago.
December 22, correct.
And I would have thought, you know what, you're probably living a comfortable life. You put in your time at USAA. That's a great run. But yet here you are still working.
Yeah, it was very comfortable, but it got boring for my wife and I after 6 months. So here I am back at it, yeah.
And so we're outside your office. It's real estate.
Yes.
So you're a real estate agent, if you will?
Correct. I am with Keller Williams at Castillo Group. Yep.
Yeah. And so you enjoy that?
I love serving people. And after 35 years of really helping people and being in the corporate world, just being able to do it at a different level is just phenomenal. I love helping people, yeah.
That's fantastic. And so... I could brag on him all day long, but the reality is, one of the reasons I wanted to do this show was because of your father, and it all ties into. We'll start with the book here, the Mustang Miracle, which is a book that came out years ago, right? But it's the movie, The Long Game, that came out just months ago, starring Dennis Quaid and Cheech Marin and a few others. And your father, your late father, who, my condolences, he just passed away about a year ago.
Thank you.
Is portrayed in that movie. And for context, this movie, The Mustang Miracle, talks about these group of kids in Del Rio, Texas, west of here on 90, who in the mid-1950s started up the golf team at what was then San Felipe High School, which is why you see SF back there. As you know, San Felipe High School no longer exists.
That's correct.
Let's start with your dad and kind of your stories and what you know about 1955, 56. Your dad came in 57, right?
That's correct. He was part of the Team 57.
So let's start there. And what can you tell us about that time and what your dad shared with you?
Well, yeah, we always had great conversations with him, but he would just share about how, which is not always portrayed in the movie exactly, but he would share the stories with us about, going caddying and then going swimming and looking for broken clubs and balls and things that they would then tape up and fix up and use as their equipment because, of course, for them at the time, golfing wasn't an option. And
not even close.
And being able to afford equipment was
even
less of an option. So
to kind of set the scene... you were talking about mid-1950s in Del Rio, Texas. I saw the movie The Long Game, and I just got to say, Del Rio, it was not filmed entirely in Del Rio, or was any of it filmed in Del Rio?
I don't think, from my recollection, I don't think any of it was filmed in Del Rio.
I chuckle because I see like lush green scenery, and I don't know if there were mountains in the background and everything. I've been to Del Rio dozens, if not hundreds of times, and people who know Del Rio know, respectfully, it wasn't necessarily portrayed correctly in the movie.
No, it wasn't green. It's a lot of mesquite, a lot of dry, a lot of hot, so yeah.
Very dry, very hot. Nopalitos everywhere. Cactus.
Everywhere, nopalitos and mesquite trees, and that's what it was.
Exactly. But again, I digress. I'm not going to bag on the movie here and everything. But the point is, to conceive something like that, these kids went on to win the state championship, which we'll get into in just a little bit, by unbelievable numbers of strokes. But to conceive, these kids were caddying at the Del Rio Country Club, correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
Because they couldn't play, obviously. Making pennies, nickels, dimes.
At most.
At most.
Yeah.
but all the time paying attention, I guess measuring the fairways and the greens and just soaking it all in.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah, that's really how they picked it up and really taught themselves before they started to learn the physical aspects of the game was the mental aspects of the game, right? By just watching and caddying, yeah.
I don't know what the quote is where they say that most of the golf is like the 6 inches or whatever
between your ears,
between your ears and everything, which is why I don't play, because that's another story. But so they took it upon themselves. They obviously could not play at the Del Rio Country Club in 1956-57, so they found a little patch of dirt in Del Rio and made a course.
Yeah, in talking to my dad and some of the stories that we've heard from some of the other golfers was that they took the machetes, the way they were called back then, and started chopping down the mesquite and created their own little fairway and their dirt green that they would brush with the broom and sweep in a little canyon in the ground.
What they call Llanito, right?
Llanito, yes,
right.
It was called.
The country club, if you will, but there was none of the trappings or the that a typical country club would have.
No,
none of that.
Yeah, the fairway, the hole that they created was El Llanito, as you stated, yeah.
And they literally dug it, like you said, with machetes and by hand, and again the cactus, and just it's some harsh conditions.
It was harsh conditions.
It's one thing to say, let's put up a basketball hoop and draw a chalk line and play basketball,
right.
or maybe even like draw some chalk lines for a baseball field. But to make a golf course, I mean, that's a lot of work. And oh, by the way, these kids are going to school at the same time.
That's right. They sure were. And they were out there, getting it done. And it was the only way that they knew to be able to play the game that they were caddying.
Yeah, I saw a quote from your dad, and it talked about just that time when they were caddying at the Del Rio Country Club. He says, "We were fighting brutal poverty and brutal discrimination. Our parents were migrants. They were illiterate. They were very poor. So to us, this was exciting. Could make a little money, learn how to play golf, and mimic the golfers."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it was not something, unfortunately, that was supported by the families because that wasn't making the money that they needed.
And that is depicted in the movie in some regards, where one of the dads, took it very hard and was not having it.
That's right.
But the kids pressed on, and then ultimately got some adult help and supervision and some coaching.
Mm-hmm. And they got there. And it's interesting, today we think about, confidence and perseverance. In the last 5-10 years, you hear all these, motivation gurus talking about that. This movie proved that those concepts of perseverance and confidence, and that existed way back then.
Yeah.
Deep down in the heart of these kids, they were confident. They did want to persevere and accomplish things. So, it's great.
By the way, the movie depicts the colors of San Felipe as like, what, maroon and gold or something?
Yeah, I think it was a red and gold.
Yeah. And I'm like, hello?
Purple and gold.
It's clearly purple and gold. But again, like I said, I digress. Your dad was, they call him Shorty, right? So your dad was Gene. It was Higenio, am I saying that correct?
Higenio.
Higenio. Higenio, but they called him Gene, and he was probably the shorter of the
Yes,
golfers.
but in the movie, he was portrayed as the tallest.
Of course. Hollywood taking a few liberties there.
That's right.
Were you involved in any way with the making of the movie?
No, I was not. My sister, Denise Rubio, and my other two brothers, David and Gene, they did get to travel to some of the sets and see some of that.
Right.
Unfortunately, my wife and I were not available to make any of those.
So let me show the book again because, we should mention, this book, by the way, written by Humberto Garcia, who's an attorney here in San Antonio.
He is, yeah.
He wrote this, 2009, 2010?
I think it was about 14 years ago.
It's been about 14, 15 years ago, and you see how long it took for this to become, it's made for Hollywood. This story... It was tailor-made for Hollywood.
It was tailor-made for Hollywood. And, we can't give enough credit to Humberto for deciding and taking the time out of his life to write this book. So, kudos to him for doing that.
So the Mustangs, by the way, were the mascot, the San Felipe Mustangs, which, again, the school district closed, I think, in the early 70s.
Yeah, they consolidated.
So today, it's literally the SFDRCISD. Longest title in the state. San Felipe Del Rio Consolidated Independent School District. But he wrote this story. Again, there's some differences in the movie as compared to the book, but all things told, what did you think of the movie, The Long Game?
It touched the heart, which is what we always wanted for it to do, right? Because it was a true story, and there was a lot of heartfelt moments and stuff. So from that aspect, we were happy.
Yes.
But to see all the greenery and the big, building that portrayed the country club, I was far from it.
My wife and I were on the couch, and she's been to Del Rio many, many times. So we were like, come on now, but ultimately it's the story, right? The story's timeless, and here we are, 60-something years later, talking about this, and
still having an impact.
Still having an impact.
on motivating, Latino kids today to know that, hey, you know what, it doesn't matter what the obstacles are,
Right.
what your position is, you can accomplish whatever you want.
It's just hard to believe. I hear the story and I'm reminded of it, and I just think about what it must have been like to be a young Latino kid. My dad was 10 years younger than your dad, so he came up a little bit later. But what it must have been like in Del Rio at that time, and what those kids must have gone through that maybe you didn't see in the movie. I don't know if your dad ever talked to you about any of that kind of stuff.
I do remember one conversation that I had with my dad, and it had to do with the sticker that I brought home one day. That back in the day was a sticker that said Chicano Power, and they had a fist, right? And at the time, because of what they were going through, and they were very young fathers, by the way, right?
Yes.
He told me, he took that away from me, and he said, "You can't do that. You cannot do things like that, carry things like that, and show things like that." Really, he said, at the time, you can't be Mexican. And the reason was because they knew that they were not getting ahead. They weren't getting opportunities to be successful because of their heritage. They didn't want that for us, right? But that did change later on in life. He said, you be proud of who you are. You go and accomplish a lot. And he really had a lot to do internally for my success at USAA and everything
Yes.
that we did.
There's 7 kids, right?
In our family,
Yes.
there's 4 and 7, yes.
I see.
3 from his second marriage, 4 from his first marriage.
I see. Okay, just want to make sure.
Yeah, you're
but again,
correct.
he passed away, was it late July of last year?
Yes, correct.
But he lived long enough to obviously see the movie and know about it and everything?
That was always what we wanted, especially when we know that we knew that he got sick. We always all wanted for him to be able to experience that. So at the South by Southwest in Austin last
Yes.
year, he did get to see the world premiere, and Dennis Quaid and a lot of the actors were there and stuff. So special moment for him to be able to see the movie in person.
You have something you brought here with you.
Yeah, actually, here's the.
Let's see.
I don't know if we can open it. This is the official movie
There it
poster
is.
of the movie.
Good looking group. It's on Netflix, I think, right? I believe that's where I saw it.
Yeah, it's on Netflix now,
yeah.
and it did achieve #1 on Netflix for a couple weeks.
So I think it's super cool because, there's only one of the golfers that is currently still alive, correct?
That's correct. Lupe Felan.
And he's out west.
He's in California, correct?
But you were telling me next month, and I know I mentioned because I had the CEO of the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, Luis Rodriguez, in here the other day. They're going to honor Mr. Garcia at their gala coming up pretty soon in October. And that same weekend, you are going to be in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, actually, it was just a kind of a unique connection. A friend of mine that retired from USAA, we worked together.
Right.
She reached out to me and said, "Can you call me?" I said, "Yes." So I called her, and she said, "My nephew works for the Smithsonian American Museum of the Latino Athlete in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And he called me and said, "Thea, have you seen this movie about these kids from West Texas?"
Right.
And she says, "Yeah, I actually know one of the sons of one of the players." So
Yeah.
lo and behold, she connected us, and they're going to have some kind of a symposium on October
love
the
it.
12th with American athletes, Latinos, and they asked if we would be willing to participate. Me as a family member, I invited Lupe Falan, reached out to him. He's going to be going. And, of course, we wanted the author of the book,
Yes.
Humberto, to be there. But he had a prior commitment here in San Antonio.
He's getting a nice award
Yeah, so
from the
he
Chamber.
won't be there. But, yeah, so we'll be in Washington, D.C. on October the 12th.
So you're getting that recognition on even a national larger... I mean, the Smithsonian, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and the movie had aired in the White House, I think, early this year. So, yeah, it's wonderful.
Are there any mementos or any of the clubs still, anything that you have personally in your collection?
Not me, but the family is. I think my brother David Vasquez played golf with my dad just in the past couple of years before his
Yes.
passing, and my other brother Gene is the one in Del Rio. So they have some of those mementos. My other sisters, Denise and Laura and Lorena, have some mementos as well, and so does Michael, my brother.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's a lot of mementos out. The family has them together. So.
I got a memento for you. I got one more thing I got to show
wonderful.
you
Okay.
here. You know what this is?
Oh, that's the yearbook, 1957.
So this is a yearbook from 1957, the San Felipe, and one little bonus. You recognize that name in there?
Felipe Romero. Yes, I do.
So this Felipe Romero was one of the golfers.
One of the golfers,
So
absolutely.
this is Felipe Romero's yearbook, on loan, obviously, to me through my dad. But this is his yearbook from 1957, and if you open it up, and I'm going to try. I got some notes in here, but this is and I want to be really careful here. This is the layout. I'm sure you've seen this before.
Yes.
But the layout of the state championship team, and as indicated, your dad's right in the middle, right? Because he's the shortest one.
That's right. That's right.
But they did. They had a pretty cool little layout, and I know this is probably not doing it justice, but these are pictures of obviously them winning and then them being given medals and awarded and everything. And at the time, I mean, this was so unheard of because they started this team in '55. I mentioned your dad was a freshman. And I've got some. I got to pull up some of the statistics here because I'm a former sportscaster, right? So I love statistics and everything. This really blew me away. So the team was formed in '55, and all of this is in the book, by the way. You can get this book, Mustang Miracle, wherever you find books and you like books. And by the way, if you're joining us late, this is Leo Vasquez. His father played on this Mustang Miracle team in San Felipe High School in Del Rio in the mid-'50s. So the team started in 1955. Just think about this for a minute. Their first tournament as a team was in September of '55. In '56, the following year, they were the state runner-up and lost by just 3 strokes.
Yes.
With the crappy equipment and all of that stuff going against them. So in '56, they lose by 3 strokes. In '57, they win the whole thing. But before I tell you the final result, I love the story about, and I don't know that it's depicted in the movie. And correct me if I'm wrong. So obviously there aren't like fancy scoreboards and stuff, and they're playing in Austin, right?
Yes.
So on Saturday, they were down by 1 stroke at the end of the day on the first day of the tournament. The following day, it rains really bad. And the team is playing and everything. And is it your father who is the last golfer to play?
Yes.
In the tournament.
Number 5, right.
He is a freshman.
Right.
He does not know what the score is.
Right.
And I had it on authority that the other golfers are telling him, Gene, if you just par the last hole, we're going to win the whole thing. Something like that,
right.
To that effect. So your dad's up there and he hits and he's, finally, and he gets to putt and he knocks it in for a par and he's celebrating and we won state. And then they come back to him and they tell him, we won. They were ahead by 35 strokes. Yeah. So they won state by 35, but they were having a little fun with your dad.
Yeah, I think they always had fun with my dad.
He was a freshman. I don't know that could ever be replicated again. I just cannot fathom any high school on earth winning the state tournament by 35 strokes. But because it rained so much that day in Austin, the other teams were not used to playing in those conditions, whereas the Del Rio boys...
Sun, rain, never snow, of course. But
no, not in Del Rio.
Dust storms, whatever, they were out there playing. So
unbelievable to me that they would win by 35 strokes. And so I don't know. I thought that was really cool. So we're going to get this back to the Romero family, but I wanted you to see this because this is, 67 years old here. This is the yearbook from the year they won the whole thing. And so... do you ever get people just coming up to you or wanting to talk about your dad and just kind of reminiscing, especially now that the movie's come out?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. All the time. And just so happy. As a matter of fact, someone here from the office, they have a group of Hispanic realtors from across the country.
Yeah.
And she walked into our office one day and saw the poster there, and she remembered that someone had mentioned this movie he had seen. He's from Pennsylvania.
Yes.
And then she saw the poster and connected the two and found me. And so I came and spoke to them. And the guy who saw the movie was in Philadelphia, a Latino. He just was in tears. So I sent him some posters. Yeah. So it went national. A lot of recognition. It's a great story for, of course, the 5 golfers, their families, of course. But it's been wonderful.
You brought this. This is your father here, and I want to try to not let the glare. But this is a button.
That's Higenio. That's Gene. Yeah, and I have a poster up right next to my desk inside, and I have his button there as well. So great memories for me too.
I believe, unfortunately, along with your father, a number of the golfers kind of passed away within a short window of time, right? Recently.
Yeah, I think in the last three years.
But it's so great that they got to be celebrated. And
it was interesting. You mentioned them winning and getting their medals. So it was portrayed that they never got their medals.
Right.
And they really never didn't. It was about, if I'm not mistaken, 7-8 years ago that my 2 brothers accompanied my dad to a Texas high school championship football game at Texas Stadium where they honored my dad and gave him his medal.
Just that recent?
Yeah, I think it was like 8, 9, 10 years ago.
No way. I did not know that. That is pretty remarkable here. A few more minutes with Leo Vasquez, who in his own right is an accomplished, a longtime employee, retired at USAA, and now doing some great things in real estate. And your dad he stayed in Del Rio after winning it all and played more golf?
Yeah, he stayed there. He was playing the little circuit there, Del Rio, Valle de Eagle Pass, and of course, he was always probably one of the smallest ones, probably like 5'3", 5'4", 5'5", maybe at the most. And so everyone always thought that, hey man, with easy money, look at that little guy. So
right.
He was very, very good.
By the way, I left out. I was just kind of reading up and everything too. Talking about fashion and with Nike and all these things. These kids were wearing jeans and button-down shirts, right? Playing golf in in not designer jeans by any mean, but
probably J.C. Penney playing pockets at the time.
Seriously,
yeah.
And you can see it. You can kind of see it in the pictures here and everything.
Yeah. T-shirts and
there they are.
That was the.
This was the day they won the whole thing, I think, and you can see it. Your dad. Wearing jeans.
I look like a T-shirt almost.
But I think so.
Yeah. It was amazing.
It really is unbelievable and everything. What would you like people to know about your dad and just for people who obviously never got to meet him or have seen him portrayed in the movie? What did the movie not say about your dad, do you think?
The movie didn't. What the movie didn't say about him just is how passionate he was with my sister and I, and all his sons and daughters was. Education was big. When he finally did make it away from Del Rio for a little bit, he graduated from Sul Ross State University, taught at the San Felipe Del Rio High School where he played. And growing up, it was just every time we would talk to him, it's about, are you in school? Are you in school? Are you in school? And so, all of us went on to get kind of advanced degrees. We have a daughter in law school now in Austin. And that was his number one mantra. You want to get ahead, get an education.
Amen
get
to that.
Education.
Do you know, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, but has any team in Del Rio won a state championship since the golf, in any sport, since 57?
I don't believe so, Ernie, but really not.
I know
sure.
somebody will correct me if they are, but I mean, it just goes to show you, I mean, how difficult it is to do that in any sport, much less golf.
Yeah, especially with that type of equipment that they had and lack of training, really, that they had.
And they were all self-taught.
Self-taught.
Now, remind me, because again, some of the parents in the movie did not love the idea that these kids were playing golf. Do your grandparents or his parents, what do you know about how they took to all of that when your dad came to them with all of this?
Yeah, I don't really remember that conversation. We were young as to how his parents, I know in the movie was portrayed that one of the parents, I think it was Joe's parents, was not very happy about it.
No.
But I don't think that they would have been as happy either, knowing that, they played an important financial part in the family. And that wasn't bringing in...
Well, because they would work, right? Before school and...
Yep. And
make a little money.
Yep, but I'm sure they wanted them to work harder, probably field work, stuff like that. That would make more money.
I just cannot imagine some of the things that they must have been told and said, and the discrimination they must have dealt with at that time. I just cannot wrap my brain around some of that.
And it's funny because I think the movie portrays some of
it
in a light way. Probably not as bad as it was.
No,
really,
no question.
But yeah.
Oh my God! How many times have you seen the movie?
I've seen the movie, I think 5 or 6. And the other day, my wife and I were traveling, and it's really just, it warms my heart when you're traveling on an airplane.
Yeah.
And you see someone next to you who they order the free movies, and they're watching the long game.
And you're like, hey, do you go like, hey?
Yeah.
That's my dad.
Well, especially if they say something like, oh, that was a great shot or a great shot. If they say something else, I'll keep quiet.
Yeah. Mentioning back to El Llanito, the little golf course, if you will, the 1-2 holes that they made back in the day, that since has been long covered up and developed, and that no longer exists, right?
Right. But the golf course, the country club there, where they played a lot,
right,
is still there, and we played that course several times. So.
Right, and to be clear, I mean, the country club eventually came around, and your dad was able to play there.
Yes.
Untold numbers of times.
That's correct. And in comparison to the movie, the country club was probably just one of those rooms in that building there. So.
Yeah. But, the Cheech Marin character, kind of like the guy that gets all the golf balls in the movie and everything.
Birdman? I think
something like
Cage
that.
Man or something.
Like, did they? There was really a guy like that?
I really don't remember. But boy, that just, that was one of the most hilarious parts of the movie.
Yeah.
It was almost a role made for him. It was great, so great.
Right. No, I enjoyed it. We really had it, and it's cool that, again, having been to Del Rio so many times, and if you're just joining us, the sun is coming in. Actually, let me pop this so we can. That's my dad's letter jacket from San Felipe High School. Again, he came in about 10 years after your dad and the golfers, and my dad was a baseball player, so they had a team when my dad was there that I think got close to going to the Little League World Series or made some noise in baseball, but the talent skipped a generation. I didn't get that.
Yeah, well, I didn't get any of his golfing talent either. My daughter right now is starting to golf.
Okay.
It's like, I thought she was going to golf once or twice a week. Now she's gone 3 or 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And she's really enjoying it. But, proud purple and gold, Del Rio High School. The building's still there. So we were there, and they had the whole thing at the high school.
So, incidentally enough, my late mother, God bless her, she grew up on Garza Street in the house across the street from the school.
Which we were just on the opposite corner on Waters and Garza.
Yes. So my mother would literally, and it's a 2-lane, Garza Street is a 2-lane street that goes in front of the school. She would literally walk out of the school building, walk maybe 30 steps, 40 steps tops, and she would be at her front door.
Yep, that's where we were, right across the street.
And now is it an elementary school now? Or?
I think now it might be an 8th grade middle school campus.
The building is still there, and it's got the clock tower and everything.
Yes,
it's got like a Back to the Future kind of feel to it when I see it sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great
with
analogy.
The clock tower and everything. But I just love, I'm so glad we were able to get you here and to tell this story and to share some of these things. Again, if you're just joining us, the Mustang Miracle is the Long Game is the movie that just came out recently. But the Mustang Miracle is a book, and Humberto Garcia he's getting props now in his just due for telling the story.
Yeah, very, very well deserved.
The San Felipe High School still has the X's, right? The Alumni Association.
As a matter of fact, yes, they do, and they put on some big parades for them. When the movie premiered in Del Rio, we went for the premiere.
Yes.
The big pep rallies, the actors were there. So yeah, it's still there.
I think my dad's a little active in it, but I think it was wasn't it a San Felipe X's meeting like 15 years ago where Humberto was there and was like heard the story and was like, I got to write this book.
Yeah, I think I heard something like that.
Yeah, and again, it took another 10, 15 years for it to actually become a movie. But it's won some awards, like you said, and done well at film festivals and things like that.
It's done really, really well. Won People's Choice and all kinds of awards. Yep, and he continues to get awards. Humberto does for the book.
Yes, yes. Again, you can get this Amazon wherever you find books and everything. And your dad is again in a better place, I'd like to think, but nonetheless celebrated on the big screen and the books and everything. And I'm just so thrilled that you were able to spend some time here and have fun in D.C. next month.
You bet. Well, thank you for what you do and for the invitation. And yeah, we're looking forward to D.C. And when I'm there, I look forward to spending more time with Lupe Felan, which is the last remaining golfer, to learn even more.
He's the last surviving golfer, and he's got to be in his 80s now?
I think so, yes.
Yeah, he's the last surviving golfer. Because I think the team was 4 golfers and an alternate.
Yes.
A total of 5, something like that. So, anyway, just fascinating stuff. And again, a little personal touch with me. My parents both grew up in Del Rio and went to San Felipe High School. And again, that's my dad's leather jacket back there. So
awesome.
Promised him I'd take good care of it. But so good to see you.
You bet.
All the best to you. Leo Vasquez. Oh, by the way, if you need help in real estate matters,
absolutely,
Leo is here too.
Yes.
I didn't mean to bury the lead there,
that's
but nonetheless,
right.
I want to make sure and help you sell some property if we need to. But good to see you, sir. Thank you very much. All right, there's another episode of Pickup Lines presented by Gomez Law Firm, Integrity Roofing and Siding, and the Savinol Group. We'll be back again very, very soon. One more time, Mustang Miracle is the book. Find it wherever you get your books, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.